annals of Ghanaian history, few figures loom as large as Jerry John Rawlings. But who was this man, and how did his actions shape the destiny of a nation? Born in 1947 in Accra, Rawlings was the product of a union between a Scottish father and a Ghanaian mother from the Ewe ethnic group. His early life was unremarkable, but destiny had other plans. Joining the Ghana Air Force in 1967, Rawlings quickly rose through the ranks, not just for his skills as a pilot, but for something more, a burning desire for change. By 1979, this desire would manifest in a dramatic way. Rawlings, now a flight lieutenant, would lead a coup d'etat, forever altering the course of Ghana's history. But what drove Rawlings to this point? Was it genuine desire for reform or something more personal? And more importantly, what would be the consequences of this action for Ghana and its people? To understand the curse of Jerry John Rawlings, we must first delve into the world he emerged from and the promises he made to a nation hungry for change. Stay with us as we journey through a pivotal chapter in Ghana's history, unraveling the legacy of a man whose actions still reverberate today. Every revolution begins with a promise. For Rawlings, the promise was a better Ghana, free from corruption, inequality, and the shackles of its colonial past. The 1979 coup wasn't Rawlings' first attempt at seizing power. Earlier that year, he had been arrested for plotting against the then-ruling Supreme Military Council. The destiny, it seemed, was on his side. With the help of a few fellow junior officers and widespread public support, Rawlings was freed from custody, paving the way for the June 4th uprising. The coup was swift, and its message was clear. Ghana would no longer tolerate the corruption and mismanagement that had plagued it for years. Rawlings and his Armed Forces Revolutionary Council promised a house-cleaning exercise. Corrupt officials were to be purged, and a new era of transparency and accountability would dawn. They lined up the senior military officers and shot them. But as the days turned into months, the reality of governing a nation became apparent. The challenges were immense and the weight of expectation heavy. The question on everyone's mind was simple. Could Rawlings deliver on his promises, or would his rule become yet another chapter in Ghana's turbulent history? As we'll see, the road ahead was fraught with challenges, decisions, and consequences that would shape Ghana for decades to come. The Ghanaian cedi, once a strong currency, began to plummet. Inflation soared and basic goods became scarce. By the mid-1980s, Ghana was on the grip of a severe economic crisis. The country, rich in resources and potential, found itself heavily indebted and reliant on foreign aid. In a bid to salvage the situation, Rawlings turned to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, but their structural adjustment programs came with strings attached. Subsidies were slashed, public sector jobs were cut, and many state-owned enterprises were privatized. While these measures stabilized the economy to some extent, they came at a heavy social cost. The dream of a prosperous Ghana, free from the chains of corruption and inefficiency, seemed more distant than ever. The very people Rawlings had vowed to uplift were now bearing the brunt of his policies. The economic downfall under Rawlings wasn't just a series of unfortunate events, it was a dark, stark reminder of the complexities of governance and the dangers of unchecked power. Delve deeper into the Rawlings era, we'll uncover more about the man behind the myth and the real legacy he left behind. Legacy is a complex tapestry woven from the threads of decisions, actions, and consequences. For Jerry John Rawlings, this tapestry is both colorful and somber. Despite the challenges, Rawlings did oversee some positive changes. Infrastructure development, rural electrification, and efforts to decentralize governance were among his initiatives. Yet these achievements were often overshadowed by the larger narrative of economic decline and social repression. Rawlings' transition from military ruler to elected president in the 1990s was seen by some as a redemption, but for many the scars of the past were just too deep. Today, Ghana stands as a beacon of democracy in West Africa, barely. Yet the very issues Rawlings claimed to fight against, corruption, mismanagement of resources, and neocolonialism, remain prevalent. In many ways, these problems have intensified, casting a shadow over the nation's progress. The legacy of Rawlings is not just about the man, but about the era he represented. It was an era of conflict, an era of indecision, an era of hope, and also an era of despair, of dreams and disillusionment. The true lessons of Rawlings' legacy is not about one man's decisions, but about the resilience of a nation and its people. It's a testament to Ghana's indomitable spirit and the belief that a brighter future is always on the horizon, even if the road there is fraught with challenges. As we reflect on the tumultuous era of Jerry John Rawlings, one truth emerges starkly. The path to genuine change is rarely paved with coups and revolutions. While Rawlings may have begun his journey with ideals of justice and reform, the aftermath of his rule tells a different story. The very issues he sought to eradicate, corruption, mismanagement, and neocolonialism, not only persisted, but in many ways intensified. Coups, no matter how well-intentioned, often lead to more pain, more suffering, and more instability. They disrupt the natural evolution of societies and leave scars that can take generations to heal. The renowned African writer Chinua Achebe once said, "Nobody can teach me who I am. You can describe parts of me, but who I am and what I need is something I have to find out myself." Ghana, like any nation, must chart its own course. The lessons of the Rawlings era serve as a stark reminder that true change comes not from the barrel of a gun, but from the collective will of a determined people. As we look to the future, let's remember the past, not as a chain that holds us, but as a guidepost pointing the way to a brighter, more prosperous tomorrow.